I'll return to you, and we will settle down. Oh, my blue-eyed one, don't make me turn around.
Here we are in Cawood, and we've come to Cawood today because it's a wonderful example of how a small rural site can actually have quite an interesting story all about the war memorials here. So I've come along to see Margaret Brearley, who's a local historian, local genealogist, local archaeologist, who's been looking at the story of the memorials here in Cawood. Had a look at the people who are commemorated, but then also gone on to look at a bit of the story of the actual memorial itself. And that's, I think, been really interesting, hasn't it, Margaret? Because you've found that perhaps things aren't quite as you'd expect, and in fact there's some disagreement about who is going to be commemorated where. Is that right?
Yes. Well, one of the first things I discovered when I was doing this World War I history was I was immediately told, oh, well, that you'll not find the men from the chapel in the church. And I thought, well, why is that? I thought everybody went on every memorial, wherever it is. And I looked into it, and I have found information now as to the reason why. And there was a lot of dissent and misunderstanding between actually the Methodists and the Anglicans. And I knew there was a memorial outside the chapel, and there's this lovely cross. And really, it wasn't till 2006 when they sold the chapel and closed it down that what were they going to do, with this beautiful cross. And I think at that point the parish council stepped in and said, we look after it. But the other thing about the chapel cross, when I looked into it, there are various early photographs, and I was really surprised to find that it was first put, as you look at the chapel, on the left, and there was a small garden. And then when it became a car park later, they moved it to the right. Okay. So it's actually gone from left to right and right across the village.
So,
it's gone.
So you have a migrating memorial. So the chapel had a memorial that was outdoors, and that's actually moved. So what did the church do to commemorate the fallen then?
Well, the church commissioned a stained glass window, and I have actually seen the records. There are a couple of letters where actually the church wardens here are arguing with ecclesiastical commissioners over the wording of a memorial. And the government, I think, at that time had decided to call World War I the Great War, but the church didn't want to call it the Great War for obvious reasons at that time. And the church wardens won. So it is on the plaque, and they put the names on, and they commissioned the window, and I think it was opened about 1924.
What a fascinating window this is, really, when you start looking at it. Once again, a bit like the Sykes Monument up at Sledmere, you can see that the people of influence have influenced the design, and we have the fallen represented. I don't know whether the faces are real representations of the fallen, but the concept of noble military dressed in medieval armour. They're wearing plate armour, and they represent various regiments of the north of England. So you've got in the foreground you've got three main regiments. You've got with a chap wearing a green cloak is representing East Yorkshire. Then there's someone in the middle there, West Yorkshire, and on the right in the purple is the Durham Light Infantry. And if you look a little more closely, you can also pick out the pennants have represent different regiments. There's the Fusiliers there, the Royal Artillery, the Manchester Regiment. So there's a whole set of regiments that presumably are regiments that the fallen actually served in.